Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen and Full Grammar Alchemist. Class is in session.
Hey there guys, welcome back to another tournament report with yours truly, Paul Reisman. This is the first tournament report we've done since, well, a while now, because there hasn't really been a competitive season. So we're finally back. It's spring, it's April. We are playing in the first GP of April, the Games and Geek online. This is going to be kind of interesting because we just got the new Masterpiece 2, Fates Reunited, and so we saw a wide variety of strategies potentially being available for this particular GP online. And as you see, a lot of folks have begun to experiment and figure out what's going on here. So let's just jump right into things. We had about 52 total players for the Games and Geek online here. I don't want to give you away the top 8 quite yet, so we're just going to focus here on the breakdown for the top 52. After Swiss, we had about probably like around 11 players dropped, so we had about 41 players after that part of the tournament, focusing on trying to get into the top 8. Gil Gotto was by far the most represented deck, just above Prisia. I think there were 7 total Gil Gotto decks that were present and only about 6 Prisia, but that says this is an aggressive metagame to be sure, and we'll get into why that is in particular. I don't have a lot of information on Prisia for you here today. Let's just say there were a lot of different varieties, and we saw a lot of work being done by the hairpin flipped over into the sub-ruler. Calling Stone and doing 300 damage every time you do, or even when you cycle stones. Turns out that's pretty good, especially in a metagame where you do not have access to your graveyard or your RFG, relatively speaking. So Prisia showed up, did a lot, almost got into the top cut here. Next up, we had Charlotte and Faria playing Mask. Pretty much all of them were playing Mask. I don't think there were any maskless versions out there, but this converted very, very well. There were 5 Mask players total, and 3 of them converted, so we are certainly looking at these combinations of rulers and particular Mask just to see what's going on there. Is there something we can do in the metagame after this? But let's not get too deep into that. Let's talk about books a little bit. Books were something that I don't think a lot of people saw coming, because not only are there a variety of ways to play books, books themselves might seem a little obscure. They did not do a lot back in the day of Lapis Cluster proper, so I don't think a lot of folks were looking at them and thinking, hey, these cards are actually really good. But it turns out when you have a sub-ruler that allows you to draw some cards, hey, that's pretty good. Last but not least in this top cut, we saw some Lulu decks. These were Lumia Lunya lists that were in combination. I have a particular theory about Lulu. I'm wondering if we just don't move on to just playing solo Lumia, because that gives us access to some of the more prominent colors in the game, like blue and black, just to give us a little bit more access, because this deck, it was certainly trying really hard, and just really couldn't get there. Later on down here, you'll see that we had a couple of Order Shiva decks. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because I think there were only 2. Based on the percentages here, my understanding is there were 2 Shiva decks. This deck did very, very well. As you can see, it actually converted into the top cut. So this Order Shiva is actually really good. Logan Moses was piloting this, and along with one other person that we saw on stream. If you want to go see that, go back and hit watch on YouTube up here, and you can go see our deck archive where we talk about the Order Shiva match. This match was really interesting because they employed some really interesting things overall. They ended up winning the event as the singleton Order Shiva that converted, but that is a really good conversion rate, and the player behind it, Logan, obviously one of the better players in the United States and around the world, so Logan was doing really, really well in this. Gil Gotto converted also really well. Books converted well as well. And then out of all of the decks that had the most representation, we had Mask in the top 8. let's now switch gears. Oop, hold on. There we go. I had to shrink us a little bit here so we could see Logan Moses' top 8 deck list here. He won the whole tournament with Order Shiva. So what is going on here? So probably the most prominent card in this deck, third row all the way on the left, is going to be Mechanized Fenrir. So Mechanized Fenrir is a very interesting ruler. Once it's revolutionized and ordered out, non-machine J resonators your opponent controls lose all abilities. So this means everything is blanked on their field if it's a body. That's pretty good right now. We're seeing a lot of cards that can mimic this, like Ray Asnable or even Nick Day, do really well into this environment because there are so many different enter effects. This is by far the cheapest version of this effect that we have in the deck. That we have in the environment, and the deck that can play it are order decks. So things like Order Shiva are really, really good. In addition to that, you have things like Count Dracula, which has not seen a lot of play in the past, but the fact that you give a -7/-7 stat negation to the entire side of your opponent's field is pretty relevant. This means that certain things can't come in. Right now, the standard 2-drop is a 7/7 or less, and so when anything comes in, like an Ashwin, sure, you can put in all the cryptids you want. You can try to even cast them again if you want to, but Dracula is just gonna say, yeah, you don't you don't have a field. This stuff is just not gonna stick. Your Ashwin is not gonna be able to gain Eternal. It'll be sent to the graveyard based on rules process. And then none of your cryptids coming in will actually have stats either, meaning that they will also go to the graveyard. So basically your board is gone. There's nothing you can really do about that. If they try and play a Suya, it also gets removed from the field before it's going to be gaining any stats. You might lose something, but you can't lose a J ruler, so just keep that in mind. This card is actually doing a lot of work. It's pretty niche, but Force of Will is a game that really benefits you from going back and taking a look at old cards that might have applications in the environment. You never know. Order Shiva is one of those decks. Speaking of cards that we thought would never, ever, ever see good amounts of play. Agni, God of Rampaging Flames. This is the Logan special right here. So when this comes in, it gets some counters, and then you double the number of counters on the card at the end of the turn. But if it's revolutionized, not only do you unlock your Rudra, which he's not playing, but the other Shiva player was playing. At the end of the turn, this card will deal damage to your opponent, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on this card. So if you're doubling all of the counters on this card at the end of turn, you can apply these triggers so that you gain the +1/+1 counters first, and then you deal the damage, which is incredibly relevant in this environment. The reason Agni had not seen a lot of play in the past, and why Order Shiva was kind of iffy, is because we had a lot of really cheap one-cost removal just going around in the environment right now. And right now, we don't really have that outside of things like Zero's Light Lightning, which you'll notice on this card, there are not a lot of keywords that get blanked by Zero or get removed from the game in any particular way. So it's interesting that you're able to just order out an Agni and just say, unless you get rid of this, I'm just gonna win the game, and then I'll just protect this card until you lose. The other option is to play Rudra, which is what the other Shiva player was playing that did not convert into the top 8. Rudra is really good because it manages board states. That's also something that we found to be really, really good in situations like this. Short of an Ashwin, this card is actually pretty good at maintaining your particular board state, because nothing on your opponent's field is going to be able to maintain itself. And just like Agni, you can stack the triggers in such a way that you get the counters, and then you deal damage to each J resonator your opponent controls based on the number of counters that you have. So the fact that these are one-cost resonators that can be ordered out in Shiva is really powerful. Alongside Shiva, of course, you have probably one of the best cards printed if it weren't just locked to Shiva. This card is insane. You can choose up to 3 of these modes, and depending on the number of modes you choose, you can pay anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 of the specified will cost here. So this is really interesting. You can just target a spell and cancel it. You can stop an activate or automatic ability, or you can just destroy any entity that you need to get rid of, such as Mask. So if you're going to pay 2 to get rid of a Mask, Rigveda is pretty good for that, although I'm not even sure if you need to do that necessarily. So just this card operates really well under that particular card. So when you see this card show up, you're going to be noticing this particular card is seeing a lot of play right now just because of how good it is in the particular environment. So looking at all of that, we have some other just really good cards in general. Vacuous, we have cancels like Lorite, Rayasnable, Farer's Spell. We have really good removal options in the form of Lumia and Zero's Lightning, Uppercut, and then main decking Therapist just goes to show you that this deck really does not care about its racial attributes at all. There are some decks, like Books in this environment, that really do not like having Therapist on the field or having Mask on the field, because if you do have it, all of a sudden you can't really play the game as simply or as easily, and so that just opens up certain ways for you to get in really powerful cards that just do a whole lot of damage if they're not interacted with or removed from the field. So in part, Shiva's really good because of the current environment and his reliance on racial skills, allowing it to play things like Therapist on the main board and get maximum value out of things like Agni, Rudra, and Rigveda, not to mention a few other spicy techs. Magic Stone deck here is pretty up in the air. Mostly, you're playing multiple colors here. You're playing all of the colors in the game. So having some sort of diversity with Omni Stones is really helpful for you. If you go into the side deck here, you're going to notice, of course, we have a Shiva. Rage of Lumia is really, really good because it allows you to get around all of the shenanigans that Gil and Giotto are getting up to, which we'll get into here in just a second. And then you have some just really good sideboard cards in general. Being able to blow up a water or a wind card with the other Shiva card here that I can't think of the name of right off the top of my head is really solid as well. And plus you just have a ton of other floodgates in Alabaster and Mina Harker. Going on to Misha Skarlatov here, we are seeing an example of Mask. So in the top 2, we had Shiva versus Mask, which, based on my conversation with you on why Shiva is such a good deck into this environment, you might understand why Mask did not fare too well. The idea behind Charlotte Glorious going into Mask is that you put out your Mask on turn 1, and what that allows you to do is to essentially slow the game state down enough that you're able to position yourself with a bunch of resonators and do a whole ton of different things your opponent's not able to do. Things like playing Regalia Beast and then going into 3 Tea Party members. Recounting then that Broken Mask is a Regalia, and so is Fates Reunited in the deck. You're able to play this card for relatively cheap and just get a lot of value out of aggressive Mask plays. Notably, this version of the deck is not playing Falchion. You'll see that in the Jeremy Lindley list, but the idea is that you just discard to Inheritance to maintain card advantage in hand and to see the cards you want to see, and then you're able to put out certain cards that are just fundamentally really good, just in general. And then eventually, if you want to flip Glorious, you can. However, that's not necessarily something the deck has to do. It can just be incredibly aggressive. So Magic Stone deck is just going to support you in doing what you need to do. You do need to play Pricia's Memoria here, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to use the inheritance effect of your Sphinx of Protopater Paulus to heal your Glorious and bring her back. And so you need to actually play these cards, but they're also really good for what the deck is. It's just a basic lawn control. Overall, side deck is pretty standard. You're looking at cards like Shards, Light Lightning, Staring At, excuse me, that's in the main board. We're looking at Flashing Smile as a card that is actually something that we're looking at in terms of its meta applications. That and Final Battle, widespread board wrath effects are very good. Because again, as we were talking about with Agni and Rudra, being able to say to your opponent, you don't have a field is really, really applicable right now. And then we have several really good will-efficient wrath effects in Wanderers. So things like Shiva are really strong right now. Flashing Smile is also really good, just in case. In fact, I might even main board one of these cards just to make sure that game one is a little bit easier on me in general. So congratulations to the top two here. This was a fun match to witness and to see. And so let's move on then to the top four. Jeremy Lindley was on the other one of the other mask lists that made it in. Stephen Hulsheiser was our third that converted. And you can see here, there's a very similar thing going on in terms of the deck list. There are a few differences that he's doing as well. He's main decking an extra copy of Fates Reunited. If you know what you're doing with this card, it can be absolutely devastating in certain matchups. He's also playing Wu Zhao Wu to come in and act as a kind of Ultra Magic Stone Golem that looks at the different stones on the field and then deals damage to the board based on the number of magic stones both players control. Again, very good card for what we're trying to do here, just maintain an advantage on the board as opposed to the opponent. It's on a resonator effect, so it's going to get around any mask effects taxing your particular chance. So that's really, really good. Playing a Lars, just to complete the family line, I guess, is there to heal your Glorious in case you do want to flip her, but you also are going to notice that there's no Sphinx of Protopaterpolys in this list, and I don't even think they're in the sideboard. We're just playing more copies of Lars. Flashing Smile, again, very good card in this particular matchup. The stone lineup is also pretty straightforward. Playing Milliam's Starscale into this deck would feel amazing, I'm sure, because all of these different stones, the Ataractia's Memoria and the Magic Stone of Moonshade would not be able to recover, so just keep that in mind if you're looking for something a little more control-based anti-mask. Just hitting their stone deck in a way is kind of a fun thing to recognize. There are also some really good cards in here, like Cyclone as another example of cancels. And then you have your Watchtress, one of the new cards for Feathsing that is generically applicable here. The solo mode is unlocked, and so that's relevant for your deck because of your extension rule allowing your solo modes to be unlocked. Congratulations to Matthew. I know that there was a huge contingent of players playing Mask to try and get Mask banned. He's one of them. Hulsheiser is the other one, and I'm not sure if Misha was trying to do the same thing, but if they said yes, he was trying to do that, I wouldn't really be that surprised. Congratulations for getting into the top four. So Ayush, friend of the channel, is here piloting the infamous deck of the format, Gil Gotto. So the reason this deck is so powerful is because Gotto says on her front side that if your opponent would have cards go to their graveyard or their removed area, they're removed from the game face down instead. Very powerful replacement effect right now because we have a lot of graveyard-based strategies. And what this deck does, it essentially says, hey, you have to figure out a way to deal with my game plan, and you have to figure out how to play against Mask if you're going into any sort of competitive environment. If at the end of the turn, you're going to be saying the top two cards of your deck removed from the game face down. And so that really puts you on the back foot right away. And the other thing that keeps you on the back foot is Ashwin, Calamity of Darkness Fires. This card is insanely good. On enter, if you have Gil Lapis as your ruler here, you can remove a Resonator or Regalia from the game. Notably, it does not say target, so this is a way to get around Mask. From what my understanding is, you can just remove that card from the game because it doesn't target, so this card is very good for that. You can then search your deck for a non-chant cryptid and put it into the field, then shuffle your deck. If you're keeping up with the spoilers, you're going to be recognizing that this particular racial attribute is going to get a lot of support going into the fourth and last set of Trinity Cluster. And of course, it can just protect itself with tucking 2 cards, you are playing the Regalia, so it is available for you to just reveal some cards and then tuck them back so this card can maintain itself on the field. This card is the reason to play Gil Lapis and Giotto in general. This card is incredibly powerful. It has multi-strike and Bane, so it's going to be doing 1400 damage per swing. That's really solid. So as you look into the main board here, you're not allowed to play blue or green spells, so you're looking at some pretty powerful cards overall. I mean, you get to play High Speed Uppercut, you get to play Suya, Lunar Protective Life Form, Shaman, Light Lightning as well, because this card is just everywhere right now, and you just have access to really strong utility cards in general. The Magic Stone deck is going to be 4 Stone of Ebon to just continue to remove cards from your opponent's deck from the game, and then the rest is there to just make sure that you have all the colors you need. The sideboard, again, is just going to be pretty straightforward. You do get to run Shiva in the side because the extension rule specifies you can't have them in your main board, so you are able to put this card into the field if you reveal it instead of the Regalia. So this is an alternative option. Revealing both and having your opponent stop the fate trigger means you do at least get a Shiva, so just keep that in mind as well. And then there's just good generic stuff. Therapist does not hurt you nearly as much in this deck because the only card that really cares about cryptids is Ashwin, and even if you don't get your cryptid, it's not the end of the world. She's strong enough on her own to just manage boards altogether. Now, the real question is, are we going to see a combination ban between Gil and Giotto, Giotto and Ashwin, Gil and Ashwin? Like, who knows what's going on here? We'll have to see what the company wants to do, but most people have kind of agreed that even though Giotto did not get as far up into the top cut as we thought she would, or they would, I guess. I mean, if we're talking about both of them together, is she really? Are they really as much of a threat as we would suggest? And I would still say yes. Giotto is just a very annoying floodgate, as many people have noted. Mask is very much the same way. So we'll have to see what the company decides to do about this. But congratulations to Ayush. I don't want to take this away from him. I know that he was playing this deck very tight and very well. So congratulations to him. Let's move on to the next list, which is going to be Pat. My water boyfriend is here with books. Books is really interesting because, like I said at the top of this video, back in Lapis Cluster, books were not they're really more of a fun deck. They were kind of like really nice utility. They have this toolbox aspect to them, but on their own, obviously they had some particular drawbacks, and so when you remake them, you have to do something different. One of those tools is going to be the Library of Never-Ending Stories. This card makes the whole deck, in my opinion. There are a lot of reasons why books in general just suddenly broke onto the scene. When you are allowed to just put out a free Regalia, that's really good, especially when it's the Grimoire, which we'll get into more detail here in just a second. Your judgment processes can now be played at quick cast speed. You can swap your rulers for a Book of Light or Book of Dark in your sideboard, and if you do, you draw and discard, which means that you are essentially just all the time getting new cards that'll allow you to just cycle out your hand, find what you want, put things into the graveyard you don't need, and with enough draw support in this list, and by the way, you have a ton. Pat is playing a lot of draw support here with Long Pony and Dark Alice. He's gonna be seeing a lot of cards. So this one particular sub-ruler is kind of insane. It's also one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of Therapists, because if Therapist is on the field, your activate abilities do not get to be activated, essentially. You can produce Void to spend on judgment processes, and if you target a J ruler you control and flip it back into your ruler area, you get that will. There's a lot of value to this particular card. It's kind of stacked and kind of crazy. Grimoire is an interesting card because it's untouchable and eternal. If you have exactly 2 cards in your hand, you can draw 2 more cards. So if you ever find yourself in a situation in which your book deck is feeling a little, your hand and book is feeling a little sparse, you can just draw up the 2 more cards. Again, this is pretty good in terms of just being able to maintain your hand advantage over your opponent. You cannot lose life, and neither can your opponent. You also don't have to banish entities by effects or abilities that you do not control. Your opponent's the same way, but that just essentially means I'm not playing Suya in this deck, and I'm not playing Life Loss in this deck. So don't be playing Roamer into books. It's not going to do anything. Life Loss cannot be performed. And at the start of the game, you can target a ruler if it has a natural tag. It's not being granted tag by any effect. Looking at you, Gil and Giotto, and it has Judgment, you can expel the chosen target. This is basically an anti-Six Sage ruler or anti-Six Sage card or an anti-Fallen Angel card. This is really good for just maintaining yourself against those particular decks. This is probably why we're not seeing a lot of Astema and Belial, or even a lot of Six Sages being played, just a lot of books being played in general. So in Pat's version of this deck, there's a lot of control versions for this deck that use Falchion and, go more into blue, but Pat's version plays Nyarlathotep, the Realized Truth. If you don't know what this card is, it's okay. This card saw absolutely no play back in the day, but now it's gotten new life. It is a Will of Hope, so you're able to bring it out, which is why he's over on Book of Light, which is why he's starting on Book of Dark. He wants to be able to, on his even turns, flip out Nyarlathotep, and in doing so, unlocks all of the seal abilities of fire cards and spells that you control, such as Mysteries of My List. That's 2,000 damage per copy, and he's running a full 4. So this version is very funny. It's very, very, very powerful in terms of what it's able to do. And because it's in red, you get access to some other cute tech, like Perrin, Fairy of Lively Fire. Whenever a J ruler is put into the field under your control, you put this card from your graveyard into the field. So if you're able to put this out on your opponent's turn, you can immediately banish it if you want to and deal a little bit of burn damage. But the fact that it's just repeatable, and the fact that you're doing Judgment so consistently all the time because of how books works, this card is incredibly good for that, and it can actually get in quite a significant amount of damage. It does have flying, and it is a 4/4, so being able to swing in and just deal 6 on her own is pretty relevant. Please ignore my phone. That's happening. He's also playing Lancelot Space-Time Knight, because when you have a J ruler, you can pay blue to discard this card and put target resonator on the bottom of its owner's deck, and you can only play it if you have a J ruler. This is a really good way of getting around Therapist, because as you note here, it cannot be banished, removed from the game, or expelled. It has a barrier chance, so you're not going to be using any chance to get rid of it either, unless they're doing some sort of wrath effect. So the best way to do it is just say, cool, I'll do it with the resonator for 1, and it's just going to go to the bottom of your deck instead of being any of these other things that it can't be. I just thought that was really, really, really cute. The fact that he was just playing this card, and he's only just playing 2. That's all you really need. I don't think he was not playing a 3rd or a 4th in the sideboard. He just saw them so often that he felt comfortable with 2. So in this list, you're playing a lot of books. You're playing the Grim Regalia to gain a bunch of extra life. You have, at least in Pat's list, you have a lot of draw support in terms of playing Long Tony, or otherwise, as normal people say, the chubby 5-tailed fox. You also have Dark Alice support, and you do have just a ton of access to board wipes in the form of Tink to just blow up the board. You have a lot of access to Fairy Tales, so Cage of Mother Goose feels really good as well. Rage of Solaris is what I think this is, what this is called, and so this card is very good for, just wiping boards, dealing damage, and gaining a little bit of extra life. And then you get the main Light Lightning because you're a base light deck. Your Magic Stone deck, you do get to play Ruler's Memoria in the year of our Lord 2025 because you are starting out with a regalia in the form of Grimoire. And this card is going to be really hard to get rid of because you can't banish it and it has Eternal. So good luck getting rid of it. This Ruler's Memoria is going to feel very, very, very consistent. You are doing the Judgment of Light book very often in this list, which is why you're citing it. So when you do end up doing that, you get Awakened Magic Stone of the Earth, meaning that your judgments are essentially free if you want them to be, because these will recover at the judgment process of a light ruler. And all you really have to do is declare judgment on the chase, and these recover. So if your opponent tries to chase the judgment here, you do have some means to stop that stuff. In the sideboard, you have the 10 Oaths of the Proto-Paterpolis' War, which is another way for you to generate will for judgment processes. This card is really good as well because it does function as an additional win condition with Bookworm. You have a couple of Nyarlathotep, a 0, the Magic Saber here, Zero the King's Blade. That's the version that we're talking about here. This card is really good because it says to your opponent, you cannot bounce my stuff. Also, you can't draw extra cards. Seems pretty good just having a Hydria that you can bring out at quick cast speed in your version of the list. We are playing a couple of cards to help in defense. That's why we have an Arla and a copy of Melgus. We do have the Epic of the Dragon Lord, which does come out and limit your opponent's ability to have multiple cards in their hand. So putting an artificial cap on their ability to have more cards in their hand than you, that's pretty good. Also, it has Eternal. So it's very good for that. It's also a book, so that can count toward the Bookworm cost. Rage of Lumia is there to stop the Gil Gotto stuff. And then, of course, High Speed Uppercut. Pat said he doesn't like this card. I absolutely adore this card. I think it's one of the best cards in the format. It's one of the key cards of the format, but he just couldn't get it to work for him. And I think that's mostly because he's playing some darkness sources that are actually pretty pivotal to the deck, so I can understand why High Speed Uppercut would not work that well for him. But Pat went into the finals, the only undefeated player. He went 5-0. So congratulations to Pat. He did really, really, really well in this particular tournament, and I know he's looking forward to whatever comes next. I know he's debating on whether or not he judges or whether or not he plays. So if he does play, good luck to him in the future. Let's move on to the next one. Stephen Holsheiser's list. Again, this is another Mask deck. He's going all in on 4 Falchion. This card is absolutely fantastic. The fun thing about this deck is you are able to dump a whole bunch of cards to Falchion, including Liberation of the Waters, which allows you to then flip your Charlotte for 1 when you banish it, and it just refills your hand and you're able to dump even more cards to Falchion and then just play Justice Punch. He is Justice after all, and he will punch you, and when he does, your life points will go to 0. That's kind of how the deck wins. Otherwise, you're playing things like 3 Tea Party members, very similar to Misha and Matthew. So, or should I say, let me just go back and make sure. Pretty sure this is Jeremy Lindley, so one of the Lindley brothers. So congratulations for Steven getting into the top 8 with this. Last but not least, we have our last Gil Gotto. Again, very similar. This deck lives and dies based on Ashwin. One card we should probably talk about is Yomidgard. That card is actually really interesting into the Mask matchup because it banishes all water and wind permanents that are on the field. So that's incredibly relevant against something like Mask, because all of a sudden the stuff that you had on the field is just suddenly gone. Very, very powerful card in general. Playing a couple of the not the lunar protective life forms in the main, but yeah, we have that right here. But the other golems that we have at the bottom are really good for just cycling cards out of your opponent's hand. Very powerful, especially if you want to dump them with Rhea. So this deck is looking really fun. Just another variation of Gil Gotto in general. Last but not least, I believe, let me check my notes here. Let me check my notes. This should be Daniel Gordon, I believe. This should be Barry Tan and Daniel Gordon on books. This is the version of books that is a little bit more control-based, slow accumulation that cancels stuff over time. Pretty darn good. In general, it's much more of a good matchup, I think, into burn books and into Pat's version of the list. But in general, this deck is also just a very good choice. You have things like Life-Stealing Altar to ramp you cards when you perform Judgment. You can sack Resonators off your field, like your Lorites, to do -4/-4 to Resonators and stuff like that. So it's very useful, and then you just kind of rely more and more on Bookworm to get you into the last places you need to be. The side deck is pretty much the same. One fun thing about the Grim card here is you can actually play Grim from outside of the game using your book effect, and then you can just activate your Tinkerbell because you put a 2-drop onto the field. The Grim pops an addition to search a Fairy Tale, and when he does, it's Tink, and then you just put Tink into the field, and that's how you do it. It's very, very funny. Pandora Light of Hope also unseals all of your number 13 anti-magics, which is really helpful for you. And other than that, you just have some basic combos here that allow you to win the game. Anyway, guys, this has been quite the long tournament report. Congratulations to everybody who got into the top 8. I know it was really fun to watch a lot of these games just happen, and to see Order Shiva come out of nowhere and just do some really, really good stuff. If you like this report and you want more, make sure to go down and hit subscribe, ring that bell, hit the like button to let us know you liked it, or hit the dislike button to let us know you disliked it. I mean, you won't see it, but we totally will, so it's still worth doing down there. And comment and say what deck most surprised you as you were going into this report. I know, again, for me, it was Order Shiva. Did not expect this deck to win it all, but here we are. And so anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the tournament report. This has been Paul saying class is dismissed.